I wanted to hear from you directly how you feel the status of Black America is right now. Like, what do you think we are right now, intellectually, intellectually, mentally, and just our whole existence? What do you think we are right now?
Our heads are in the proverbial guillotine right now. You have no serious, national, non-religious political leadership. I'm not talking elected officials. I'm speaking of politics purely in terms of political economic solutions in progress. You have no serious, national, non-religious, okay, because I don't take religious leaders serious, okay? You have no serious, non-religious political leadership. You don't even have a Black bourgeoisie leadership anymore. They've been moved out the way. And part of that is due to the police genocide campaign that really intensified during the presidency of Barack Obama and carried over to the current presidency of Donald Trump, where a lot of Black cities disinvited, okay, your established Black leadership, the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons. They disinvited them from being a part of the protests because they've always been short on solutions, you see. And so the youth did away with the bourgeoisie leadership. And so the government, in place of that, has ushered in the entertainers and the athletes to be the new leaders and spokespersons for Black America, which I think is a very dangerous strategy. It's something that we need to pay attention to, because our children are now, you know, emulating and falling in love with the very same people who are being paid to misrepresent their pain and their anger. You know, the athlete as a leader, the entertainer as a spokesperson, that's a very, very dangerous yet powerful setup, you know, because our children are so in love with their athletes and entertainers that they wouldn't dare, you know, evaluate them from a political perspective, which means it's our job to do that. And if we're going to be serious about Black liberation, we're going to have to be serious about exposing the entertainers and athletes who are not effectively articulating our issues and instead are parroting the message that the white power structure wants Black youth to hear.
It's funny that you say that, Dr. Umar, because the whole genesis behind the BRI is I never wanted, don't get me wrong, I appreciate you being here and I consider you celebrity status for the BRI, like you're a celebrity. But the BRI was totally about common folks. And when I mean common folks, I mean Black entrepreneurs, Black psychologists that may not have the notoriety that you have, right? That may not have the notoriety that you have, but they still doing the same work that you're doing, right? And I wanted people not to rely on those entertainers and stars to look for inspiration. I wanted you to look for everyday people that you see every day to look for inspiration, because these are the people who are going through the same things that you're going through, but they're finding a way to make it happen, right? They're finding a way to make it happen. But I am never going to pass up the chance to interview someone like yourself, because you've been in the trenches, not only in the trenches in the hood, but you've been in the trenches on the higher levels as well. And so it's like you're a messenger. You've been at that higher level, and you can come back to me or us and be like, look, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And what I like about your message is you tell us what's happening, and then you tell us what we need to do. Right? It ain't just saying this is what's happening. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. You say, okay, yeah, this isn't happening, but this is what we need to do.
Absolutely. And one of our problems as a people, we have to be honest. Most Black people don't want to be free, and they don't want to be free of white oppression. They want to be comfortable under white oppression. That when our young people protested, okay, when we go to vote, we're not voting for liberation, because you don't have to vote to get liberated. Okay, you don't have to protest to get liberated. You have to organize to get liberated. You vote and protest because you want to participate. You want to participate in your oppressor's reality, but he's not letting you do it. You understand? So most of us are seeking entry into the white power structure. We're not trying to get out of it. And that is a clarity that must be made, a clarification that must be made, because you can see two angry Black people. They're both angry. One is angry because he wants to be free. He wants out. The other is angry because he wants in. And that's why we cannot assume that all of us, just because we're angry at police brutality, we're angry at mass incarceration, we're angry at miseducation. But what is our vision for change? For a lot of us, there is no vision of liberation. We want a better accommodation under white power. We don't want a Black liberation.
It's crazy that you say that, because I tell everybody, if you march and you protest and you boycott, at the end of all of that, you still got your hand out, right?
Yes,
like
you're looking for something. And don't get me wrong, there is a benefit to marching. There's a benefit to the vote, but only if it's organized. So, for example, we had the 2020 protests for justice that were initiated with the assassinations of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. Condolences to their families. Rest in peace to the deceased. There were three mistakes that were made with those protests. Mistake number one, it wasn't all Black.
Right.
We allowed it to be multiculturalized. And the minute we did that, the Black agenda was taken straight off the table by everybody. That's number one. Learn to march by yourself. We still haven't learned it because we're so insecure about being Black and being accepted. Number two, there was no clearly identified leadership or spokespersons whose job was to articulate the Black agenda. Who is the mouthpiece to the white power structure? We had no mouthpiece. So because there was no official mouthpiece, anybody was able to put their narrative on top of the protests and make it fly. The Democrats used the protests to basically get Joe Biden elected. They just exploited it for votes. Okay, different groups exploited it for their agenda. It was never about Black people by the time it was over. And I'm disappointed in this because those protests were the most comprehensive, protracted protests we've seen in America since the Dr. King assassination protests of '68. 52 years. And the media had never put a light on the plight of Black America like they did a few months ago, and we totally wasted it. And the third mistake that we made was we did not project a platform of demands to the world. There was no platform. I have never seen a movement that doesn't have a 10-point platform, a 5-point platform, a 7-point platform. There was nobody articulating mass incarceration. Nobody was articulating miseducation. Nobody was even articulating what we wanted from the police genocide cases. Okay, nobody said we want the police to all be held accountable and charged with hate crime when they kill unarmed Black people. That was never put out. So Nancy Pelosi remixed that into the so-called crime bill, which is actually a comic bill because it was laughable, the lack of accountability that was built into that bill for police who kill Black people. We totally wasted it. We wasted it. The only thing worse than those protests was Barack Obama's presidency. Obama's presidency and the 2020 protests for justice are two of the greatest failures of Black America to respond in the moment to force their issues on the table.
Okay, now you got to enlighten me on that. So what do you mean Barack's presidency? Enlighten me.
Barack Obama fought for every minority group in America except Black people. He hired record numbers of LBGTs to federal court benches. He hired a record number of LBGTs to general employment. He passed 3 laws for the LBGT. He passed laws for immigrants. He passed laws for women. Not one law, not a single law did he pass to protect Black people. In 8 years, you can't give me one law that Obama passed to benefit black people.
You know, I have and I'm gonna tell you, Dr. Umar, I have a different stance on that, and my stance on that is that I sort of look at Barack Obama the same way I look at Thurgood Marshall, right? I love Thurgood Marshall, but when he went to the Supreme Court, right, they sort of made him ineffective because he's one justice, right? He's just one justice. So when I look at Barack Obama, I didn't really look at him to do anything dynamic for Black America except two things. A lot of people don't understand that when you register to vote, you're also making yourself eligible for jury duty, right? Like you're making yourself eligible for. That's how the jury pool is decided by registered voters, right? And then the next thing is, before Barack Obama, I could not look my son in the face and be like, "Yo, you can be anything you want to be." Right? Like, and so to me, it was symbolism. I don't think like the first of anything is gonna get everything right, but to me, it was symbolism. So, but when you look back and you say, well, he didn't pass no laws for black people, you're absolutely right. That's undeniable. You can't even deny that fact, right? That you can't deny it. But for me, it was just, I guess I fell into the hope factor, right? Like I think a lot of us did. Just happy that somebody that looks somewhat like me is there.
But here's the issue, though, respectfully. Those who fell into the hope factor because they were looking for better accommodation, not black liberation. Because if you're looking for black liberation, you don't care what color the president is, he still represents the white power structure of America. And my problem with Black America, because of our political immaturity, we failed to recognize that Barack Obama was only a spokesperson for a larger system over which he exercises no control. So I don't want Black people to single him out for special criticism. I want them to treat him the same way we treated every other president, which was an enemy of Black America, period. Barack Obama is no different than Abraham Lincoln, which happens to be his hero, by the way, which told me from the beginning he wasn't going to do anything for Black people. Anytime you have a white supremacist as your hero, a Black man has a racist as his hero, something's wrong with that, you see. But again, with Obama, if we really want Black liberation, why are we comfortable with symbols? People who want to be free don't care about no symbols. We want freedom, true justice, and not symbolism. So for Black people to say, well, my son, my daughter got a chance to see a Black family in the White House. We've had greater Black families than Michelle and Barack. We've had Black families who actually struggled for Black people. I mean, look at the pantheon of heroes that we've had that we can look to, with who were genuine freedom fighters for Black people, not fictitious like a Barack Obama, but genuine freedom fighters. And I can't put Thurgood Marshall in the same category with the Barack Obama. The same reason why I can't put Nelson Mandela in the same category with the Barack Obama. Although they may have grown weak as elders, Nelson Mandela and Thurgood Marshall still had a history of struggle as youth. Thurgood Marshall struggled to desegregate those schools. You understand? His life was put at risk and threatened several times. So he has a history of grassroots struggle. So does Nelson Mandela. Barack Obama has no history at all that anybody can show that he ever fought for Black people a day in his life.
I mean, I can't find one, but that's why I prefaced it and said that once they gave Thurgood Marshall, once he was elected to, well, appointed to the Supreme Court, They sort of tied his hands.
Well, that was a consolation prize. Thurgood Marshall was appointed and confirmed for the Supreme Court in the aftermath of the riots of the riots of 67 and 68. And so the government said, we got to give black people something to stop the fires and the bombs and the looting. You understand? You had the Detroit riot, you had the Newark riot, you know, you had the red hot summer of 67. So the country was up in a blaze. And so they only put, if there were no riots, if 1967, if that red hot summer of 67 never happened, if Dr. King was never assassinated, Thurgood Marshall would have never been on the Supreme Court. That was a consolation prize to Black America.
And Dr. Umar, you know what's crazy about that is once they gave us that consolation prize, nothing happened in the 70s.
Oh, yes.
Like there was like the 70s was like a graveyard for, you know, Black Americans, and so to speak, and as far as trying to liberate themselves from white oppression.
Well, remember now, the government wanted to make sure that Black America could never organize and present a formidable challenge to the white power structure ever again. So once they waged war, after they assassinated Dr. King, 68, and then they assassinated Fred Hampton, I believe in 69. When they came into the 70s, they said, we're going to get rid of the Black power and the Black Liberation Army. And then we're going to declare chemical warfare on Black America and economic warfare on Black males. So in 1970, they destroyed the economic foundation of the Black community by doing two things in the 70s. Taking out all the industrial building trade programs from our high schools and taking all the factories out of the ghetto. Most of our parents were able to live comfortable, decent lives with no college education. They would go and work for the factories and live a decent life with a decent retirement. The government said, if we want to destroy Black America, we got to destroy the Black dollar if we want to kill Black power. If we don't kill the Black dollar, we won't be able to kill the Black power. So they went into the high schools, make sure no Black males could learn how to use their hands again. No more electricians, no more plumbers, no more carpenters. And then we're going to take all the factories out of the inner city too. We're going to starve them economically. And then in 1980, we're going to drop the crack off. And then in 1990, Bill Clinton dropped off his 1994 crime bill with mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug-related offenses. And so Bill Clinton effectively locked up more Black men than any Republican president in American history. And then in the year 2000, George Bush hit us with the faith-based initiative, where he started funding Black churches with federal money. And that is what effectively sidelined the Black church from being the backbone advocates and instigators of Black justice. If you notice, since the year 2000, and we're only 20 years in, the first 20 years of this century, you can't name me a single megachurch minister. You can't name me a single megachurch minister on the national level who is involved in a serious struggle against mass incarceration, miseducation, gentrification, police genocide, or access to wealth. You can't name one. And that is the effect of George Bush's faith-based initiative. Your pastor is the new FBI.
Wow. See, that's why I was salivating at the mouth to get you on here, bro.